Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming today to the MBAC for July 2024. I'm John Leisman. I'm a planner at Baltimore City DOT, and we have an array of items to talk about. We can go to our next slide here. Okay, you can keep going there, Luciano. So here's the agenda for today. We're doing the welcome now, community events and updates, general agency updates, and some important updates on active projects. We can go to the next slide as well, Luciano. Okay.
All right, as far as commission updates, we are still looking for commissioner applications. We will keep accepting applications until vacancies are filled. Applicants will be interviewed and they will require city council confirmation if they are selected by the commission. And just to be more specific, these are community-oriented roles and technical experience is not required to be a community member of the MBAC. And just as you see below, some more information, Alan Robinson is currently managing the applications. So if you have questions, you can reach out to him. And this information is also on the MBAC website.
And I think we have a question from Eli.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that city council confirmation, just since that's not something that I had, I believe we discussed before, and I wasn't sure whether that was required under the regional executive order, or if this is sort of like where that requirement comes from.
Okay, I can review and follow up with Alan and get back to you.
That'd be great. My impression had been that these are, well, they're mayoral appointments, that or designees of agencies, that the commissioners don't require city council confirmation for selection for the Mayor's Bicycle Advisory Commission, because it was established through executive order and it wasn't written into the executive order, rather than being established through legislation or ordinance. I could also be wrong about that, but would appreciate a clarification.
Okay, I'll definitely follow up with you after this call, and we can update this on our website if the information has changed.
Thank you.
All right, and moving on to our next slide for some community updates.
Yes, sure. So for the community updates, we have Eli here to go over them real quick.
Yeah, so it's welcome everyone. And would welcome folks chiming in on the chat or coming off mute to share additional community events. But the events that we know are coming up are Baltimore Bike Party last Friday of every month, so August 30th for the upcoming month of August. The mobile bike shop is having recurring sort of services, bike shop services at both Lake Montebello and Druid Hill Park. That's a Bike More program, so check their website for additional details. And Bike More is also the host of the monthly bike breakfast program. So I believe that's this Friday, August 2nd, at the courtyard behind Sophomore Coffee at 23rd and Maryland. It's an event that's for interested members of the community, anyone who's involved with bikes or biking in Baltimore City who wants to connect with others who share that interest. Any other events that folks want to call out?
Okay, we can have Clinton.
Thank you, John. I would like to say that Rails to Trails and the Baltimore Greenway Trails Coalition is hosting a bike ride on August 10th. We'll be meeting at Lake Montebello at 11 o'clock, and we'll be riding that loop and hitting the Herring Run Trail and ending at Coco's Pub. So if y'all want more info on that, you can go to our Baltimore Greenway Trails Coalition page on Facebook, and there's an RSVP link for everyone to sign up. So I hope you can join us.
Okay, thank you. We can go to our next slide here, Luciano.
All right, we have some updates from recreations and parks.
I believe Kenny is on this phone call here.
Hi everyone, my name is Kenny Perry. I am one of 2 trail naturalists for Baltimore City Recreation and Parks. Just getting back from vacation, so bear with me. My colleague Sarah was awesome and took care of this slide for us. Just here to speak on some of the updates with CR trails. So as you can see here, these are one of our new gates and bollard combos that have gone in the last couple months in the Gwynns Falls Lake Park area. So the highlights with those are, they allow bike access on either one side and vehicle maintenance. But with the project coming to conclusion, some other highlights are vegetation removal, pavement repairs, bridge decking, and new wooden railings, traffic bikes, and bike-friendly gates and bollards that I mentioned, and you can see here. That's kind of the big highlight for us. Is we're really excited to bring that project to close. A couple of things are outstanding, but completed. But we see you out there. We're out there every day doing trail maintenance, not only in the Gwynns Falls area, but all over the state. So if you see us, say hello. And if you run into any issues on the trails while you're out biking or otherwise, use 311 on the app or give 311 a call to report those issues. But otherwise, say hello to myself, Sarah, or our seasonal maintenance aide, Derek. We're out there on the trails. All right, thanks, y'all.
I think we have one question from the crowd here.
Hi, this is Greg Hinchliff. Are you guys covering the Jones Falls Trail as well?
So we are covering Jones Falls Trail in our maintenance regime. This project, the details that you see here are for the Gwynns Falls Trail, but is there any issue or concern that you have in particular with the Jones Falls Trail?
Yeah, the vegetation encroachment near the streetcar museum is pretty bad. I'll do a 311.
Absolutely. Yep, that's an area that we have struggled a lot with, some invasive plants. So we'll handle what we can, and then we also rely on our community partners, the weed warriors, to help tackle the kind of larger scale management of that area. But I agree with you; it's a tough spot. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think we have one more question as well from Jed, I believe.
Hey, Kenny, I wanted to thank you. You guys are just doing an incredible job over there on Gwynns Falls Trail, especially, and it's really, really noted. Greg, bringing up Jones Falls Trail just reminded me that the gates there that are existing often are left unlocked or open, and we do get some vehicle traffic on the trail, I think accidentally, and sometimes even like delivery trucks stuck up there. So if you can just sort of pass the word to remember to get those gates relocked when stuff's done in Druid Hill Park, that'd be great. But yeah, really, really incredible job. Like the stuff's so amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Just to confirm, are you talking about like the Druid Hill near the Zen Garden, Parkdale, that gate right there?
Yeah, so that gate there, and then the gate sort of behind the pool. Both of those tend to be left open, and then vehicles will either drive down, further into the park there, or I think delivery vehicles sometimes try to get up to the zoo on the Jones Falls Trail from that gate by the Zen Garden.
Definitely. All right. I will tune in and check in with our partners there with park maintenance and the zoo and see if we can lock that down.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Cool. And I think we have one more question from Melanie.
Hi, I'm Melanie from Southwest. You gave a list of events coming up, and I just wanted to mention, since you're talking about the Gwynns Falls Trail, we do weekly bike rides in this area. We start at Holland's Market. This Sunday at 7 a.m. we're doing the Gwynns Falls Trail, so if anyone wants to come out, feel free to. Those are organized with the Southwest Partnership Vibrant Streets Committee. David McGill runs them.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Yeah, be sure to reach out if you haven't already to Carlos Camacho of BCRP. He's our community engagement main liaison. So him or Tony Savage would be to escalate and elevate your message for that event. That's great. But thanks for being out there on the trails.
Okay. Any more questions before we move forward?
And just so that we don't call on you twice, make sure to lower your hand if you can after you've been called on.
Okay. Let's move forward there.
I see that we also have a comment in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Regarding the bollards and bike gates. And for BCRP, what is the pay for the trail manager?
Yeah, so I actually believe that position has been filled as of recently. So sorry to take that off the market. I think that was maybe a little bit of an old update. We weren't sure if they were coming in yet, but I believe last I heard they were planning to start on August 19th, kind of mid-late August. So soon our trail team will be growing, but sorry to take that off the market for you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our next slide. We have some updates from the mayor's office.
Yeah, we're gonna have Helen Robinson speak on this here.
There we go. Good afternoon, all. So just wanted to take a moment to recognize the recent tragedies that we've experienced as a community. In the wake of these recent events, we just want to make sure everyone understands we do stand together in a solemn bond and solidarity. We do acknowledge the profound loss and irreplaceable lives that have been taken too soon due to vehicular accidents involving multimodal pedestrians. Now, each incident is not just a statistic, but a void left in families and communities. So through the MBAC and through, other initiatives, we are committed to honoring their memories through action by advocating for safer streets, supporting comprehensive traffic education, and fostering a culture of respect and awareness on our roads. So as our hearts go out to all of those affected, we are offering our unwavering support during this time of healing and reflection. So here we have a photo of Mr. Reggie Monroe, who tragically lost his life due to a underage driver who was speeding through this residential area and hit this gentleman. We can go to the next one now. I'm not able to move the slide. And here we were talking about Mr. El Haji, a 44-year-old man who was struck while riding his bike, and he was killed at the intersection of Bank and Caroline Street. So these are not done in a vacuum. We've recognized this tragic loss, and everything that we're doing is dedicated to trying to save as many lives as possible for those folks who are traveling through our city. We want to make sure that, in the future, where such tragedies are a thing of the past and where our focus is that every journey, regardless of the mode of travel, is made in safety and without fear. And that is the goal of what we're trying to achieve. So with that, I will leave it there.
All right, thank you. Seeing no comments, we're moving on to our next point. We have our updates from the Department of Transportation.
Yeah, so we have recently hired a new planner too. I'm gonna let Brandon talk about himself real quick, and then we'll move forward.
Yes, thank you, John. Hey, everybody. My name is Brendan Latimer. I'm in my, third month, I think, with Baltimore City DOT. Before this, I was with Caltrans, which is the Department of Transportation for California. And before that, I worked for the Department of Planning as a transportation planner in the city of Newark, New Jersey. and I got my master's in urban planning from NYU in 2020. I like riding bikes. You can, be happy to ride bikes with anybody on this call at any time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Additionally, in terms of staffing, we're going to have a few new planners joining our team beginning this month. Ethan McLeod will be joining us to work on multimodal transportation projects and grants. Tyler Smith is going to be joining us, our new Douglas Vehicle Program Manager. He's going to be working closely with Caitlin, and they're going to be managing our Douglas Vehicle Program. He comes from the DC Capital Bike Share Program, and he's bringing that expertise into the city. And finally, we have Scott Fox. That's our new Transit Services Administrator. He's going to oversee the operation of the Charm City Circulator and the Harbor Connector, and he's coming to us from Mead and Hunt. He has previously worked for the Memphis Area Transit Authority, so he's bringing that with him as well. We have some micromobility updates with Caitlin.
Hey everyone, just some quick updates on the micromobility program. I guess the biggest update being that there will be a full-time program manager probably by the next time that this meeting is held, but we kicked off the new permit year on July 1st for the dockless vehicle program with our renewing the permit of our existing operator Spin, who's continuing to operate scooters and e-bikes in the city. And then we also welcomed Lime back, who came with scooters, e-bikes, and adaptive vehicles. Next slide, please. So with Lime bringing the e-bikes, this is actually a graph of the average number of bikes that have been deployed in Baltimore, like over the past year or so. And you can see in July when we brought Lime back, they brought an additional 500 e-bikes. So now on a daily basis, there is about 600 or more bikes available for rental in the city of Baltimore. Next slide, please. And then the program also has a public meeting that's held quarterly. So the next one will be in October, which will just go over updates on all things micromobility in the city of Baltimore. If any of these community events that were mentioned are interested in having Spin or Lime partner on them or provide bikes for those that might be participating but don't have access to a bike, just let me know. I'm happy to provide their contact information and get you connected. And then we're also working through collecting any remaining super pedestrian scooters that have been left in the city of Baltimore. The maintenance team is helping with that. So if you see one out there, let us know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If anyone
Okay.
has any, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's good. Yeah. Any questions for sure? Question from Helen.
Yeah, I do have a question regarding scooter parking, our reserved parking areas for scooters. I've noticed we're having some trouble, especially in the space in front of the Science Center, where there just isn't enough room for scooter parking and all the people that need to get by. Is there any way we can now start taking parking spaces away from cars and putting the scooters there instead of putting the scooters on the sidewalk?
Hi. I think for that, you're more than welcome to contact me and we can kind of workshop a solution, especially by the Science Center, because I know there's lots of vehicles out there. We have in the past installed parking corrals that are in the street. You might have seen them. There's a few throughout the city, but they're essentially used like near the intersection, also giving more clearance between the cars parked and people crossing the street, so we can work to figure something out. I can put my email in the chat. Yeah, and John also dropped in the chat a link where you can, if anyone on the call is ever in need of like a bike rack or interested in having a corral added, you can actually apply and we'll go through the locations and reach out to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, we're going to move on to our next topic.
Okay. Yep. So thank you, Caitlin Schaefer and everybody. So for now, we're going to talk about the BMC Bikeable Regional Network Plan. Give a quick, small update on that. So we have Charlene here for that. So the floor is yours, Charlene.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me today. I'm Charlene Neas, the Active Transportation Planner at Baltimore Metropolitan Council. And we have a project called the Bikeable Baltimore Region Project, a plan for a safe and connected bike network. And we're working in collaboration with Baltimore City and the counties in the Baltimore region, as well as the public, to identify a regional bike network. Vision statement is that the Baltimore region will work together to create a bike network that expands opportunities for users of all ages and abilities. The connected network will support improved safety, mobility, and equitable access to jobs, schools, housing, transit, parks, and other daily destinations. With the goals identified by talking to the public and working with our steering and advisory committee, we are improving safety and accessibility, advancing equity, connecting people to places, supporting environmental and health benefits, considering context, emphasizing collaboration, supporting community development, setting attainable ambitions, and maintaining the network. Next slide. Right. So we just wrapped up our first comment period. This is what we call the listening phase. We're going out to the public and asking them, what would make a regional bike network a success to you? What we heard for that was protected bike lanes were really emphasized, connectivity between destinations, safety and traffic calming, connections to transit, and then reducing driver aggression towards bicyclists. So we went out to the public at 10 public meetings. There are 8 in person throughout the region, and then 2 virtual meetings. We had a lot of interaction online as well through our project website and our story map, which are still up. Even though the comment period is closed, and that's the link there. We had 161 survey respondents. So right now we're processing what we heard from the public through the public meetings and this online input. We're working with the steering committee, which is made up of representatives from the city and counties, and also our advisory committee, which is made up of different organizations and community groups. I think we have over 80 members. We're identifying that criteria on how we're going to figure out what a regional bike network is. So next slide. So to do that, we're also looking at this analysis we did on current conditions. So where are there opportunities for short trips? As you can see there in that map, that's an example of that. And that's coming from analysis that was done through the state's bicycle pedestrian plan, looking at population density and employment, transit and school coverage, and zero car households. We also are looking at the existing network. So where are there bike facilities right now? And where are there places where people can bike comfortably? So places with separated bike infrastructure, low car speed, low car volume locations, because we want this regional bike network to be all ages and all abilities. We're also looking at equity and where there are vulnerable communities that need connections, safety analysis where there are bicyclists involved crashes taking place, and then where people are biking currently. So we're taking all that information, the feedback we've gotten from the public, and we're beginning that process to identify a regional bike network, which will be made up of existing and planned bike facilities from the city and the county's local planning efforts. So it'll be a subset of those. And this will really help focus and accelerate the creation of a connected network. That's something we really heard from the public a lot. You know, we have almost 600 miles of bike lanes and paths in the region, but they're mostly disconnected. And so people often told us that, you know, it's hard to get from to the places they need to go on safe and comfortable bike infrastructure. So our goal is to help create that in the region. And I don't know if there's another slide. I think there is. Yes, next steps. Sorry. So next steps, as I said, we're developing the regional bike network criteria. So how are we going to figure out what the regional bike network is? And then we'll develop the draft regional network. We'll come out to the public with that draft regional network in the fall. We want to get your guys' input, see if we're going in the right direction, if there are areas that need to be changed. Then starting early next year, we'll finalize the regional network. What's also coming out of this is strategies and recommendations on how to implement this. So maybe policy recommendations, cost estimates, prioritization, so which things should be tackled first, and also what are the impacts to the community. So if we build this out, what are the economic impacts? How does it increase access for different communities? And then the project is scheduled to be wrapped up in June of next year. And that's all I have. If anybody has any questions. And we had a question about if we coordinated with the East Coast Greenway team. Yes, we have. Daniel Paschal is on our advisory committee, and I've interacted with him outside that, a number of emails, especially as we work on the data set of the existing and planned bike facilities. So they're super involved, and we really appreciate it a lot.
Okay, thank you very much, Harleen.
Thank you.
We can go to our next slide here, Luciano.
Right. Our next item is project updates. And we're starting with our e-bike voucher program. So recently we announced that we would be launching an e-bike voucher program that is making available for our income qualified residents up to $2,000 in vouchers. It also provides for up to $750 for regular applicants, and those who are not income qualified. Voucher applicants who are selected will be selected through a lottery, so that will be random. It will exclude obviously those who have worked on this program, as well as their close relatives and associates, just to ensure the fairness of it. The vouchers cannot be applied toward a past purchase, so the purchase does have to be made using this voucher, and applications will be opening in September.
Awesome.
This information is on the DOT website as well if you'd like to learn more.
We have one question from Helen. Oh. All right, moving on, we have Shayna Rose here to talk about the Wolford Washington update.
Hi, everyone. So the Wolf in Washington project, while you might not have heard from us for a while, has been ongoing. We've been kind of getting some contracts into place, applying for grant funding, and I'm happy to report that we are moving the project forward. We kicked off the 60%, really an 100% design process yesterday. And so you'll hear from us soon regarding pop-up opportunities and other ways to be involved that are going to be coming this fall. We also applied for a construction grant through the state and we expect to hear back from them also this fall.
All right, thank you. Seeing no, okay. We do have a question in the chat. Is it 60% through 100% design?
Yes, this will be for both Wolf and Washington.
All right, and I see that Kurt raised her hand.
Just a quick question. If you are successful with the grants, when would you hope to break ground on the project?
Yeah, I think at this point we are going to be aiming for construction in the 2026 paving season.
Okay. All right. Thanks. We're looking forward to it in Upper Fells Point.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Seeing no other questions, we can go ahead and move on to our next topic, and that is the Big Jump Phase 2.
And we have our new planner to talk about the big jump.
Yes, thanks, John. Right, so as you all probably know, the Big Jump is a pop-up bike ped trail delineated by water-filled jersey barriers on the street. And it runs on Druid Park Lake Drive from Madison Street across the 28th Street Bridge along 28th Street to Atkinson Street. Currently, we are in the planning stages of pavement marking plans in the near term so that we can resurface and restripe that section of Druid Park Lake Drive that the Big Jump runs along. And in the short term, what we'd like to do while that process takes place is maintain the water-filled jersey barriers and add a couple breaks so that emergency vehicles can have access to their destination. In the medium term, we are bringing on a consultant at the end of the summer, which coincides roughly with when the repaving and restriping will take place. And the consultant will essentially conduct a feasibility study to determine what the next step will be, whether that's going to be converting the existing water-filled jersey barriers to concrete barriers, or whether that will mean constructing a side path. So in the medium term, again, this is towards the end of this summer, we will be bringing on a consultant to discuss those options. And in the long term, some of you might know, but we won a Reconnecting Communities grant, which will totally reimagine Druid Park Lake Drive. So in the long term, we're sort of preparing for that reimagination of this area through the Reconnecting Communities grant.
Question from Omar.
Thank you, John. Just a quick question on the long term. Just if you can clarify for me, how far does that design extend? Is it just going to be for Druid Park Lake Drive, or is that going to go up towards Aucontourley and Reisterstown as well? Or
that's a great question, and I can actually, it's Druid Park Lake Drive. And if you want to, I can drop my email in the chat so that you can follow up with me directly so we can discuss more about that if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious because I know that at least I've heard some rumors that the plan might extend that far. So I'm just curious.
And actually, I will.
Yeah.
I can also drop the Druid Park Lake Drive Streets of Baltimore page, which has all of our plans and outreach updates to date. So let me just drop that in the chat for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brendan.
Yeah. Thanks, Omar.
Right. We have another question from Dan. You can go ahead and come off of mute. Or if you're having trouble, you can also type your question in the chat as well.
I think we have one more from Jed also, if
Am
he
I
can't speak.
am I
Oh,
okay
there we
now?
go.
We can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. Are the water-filled barriers actually water-filled? And are you trying to deal with the issue of them blowing around a lot when there's a high wind?
Yes, to both questions, and we are working closely with DPW and DOT traffic to make sure that those barriers are in the right place. We of course welcome the public to weigh in, whether it's 311 or direct email to us. We're always on the lookout to making sure that the big jump is intact. I'm seeing a question from Kara as well. Do you want to come off mute, Kara, or I can read your question too?
Hey, sure. Thanks so much. Yeah, just my quick comment. This has been sort of an issue, I think, for a while with the big jump, and I'll just clarify that, I love its existence. I love seeing all the updates that have been happening, especially on the Remington side. I live in Reservoir Hill and frequently use the big jump to get over towards Remington. And there's that section of the big jump that kind of splits off. It's technically still following Druid Hill Lake Drive, but you kind of slightly go to the right and then you go past like Lakeview Towers. And it's technically, it's the same road, but it's a different road. Instead of, if you went straight, you would continue to 28th Street and basically like go onto the highway. And like I myself, the very first time I used the big jump years ago, made this mistake and ended up on the highway on a bicycle, which was very scary. Yeah, of course everyone honked at me. It was a whole thing. I was fine. But I'm, because I did that years ago, I'm pretty aware of it, and I see other people doing that who maybe are using the big jump for the first time. I think maybe part of the issue is that the water barriers that are on that part of the road that's in front of Lakeview Towers, I don't know if we're supposed to actually be able, like if there's supposed to be a bike lane there, because those barriers are frequently pushed up against the side of the road. So there's really no split between where you're biking and just the road. For that piece, it's not a huge deal because that's not really a frequently, like that road has cars on it, but it's not, the traffic on there isn't as bad. The main issue that happens when I bike that particular section is that like going through there back onto the big jump, there's typically there's a bus that goes by, there tends to be ambulances that park outside of Lakeview Towers, so it can get like a little congested there. So maybe just, I guess to summarize, my main points are that split where you have to go slightly right if you're on a bike or other, mobility device is a little confusing. So maybe some extra attention. It sounds like some short-term stuff is going to happen soon, which is fantastic, but maybe some extra attention specifically to that spot so you're supposed to turn. And then also attention to those specific water barriers, because again, they're just kind of sitting there and they're not really it's not actually a bike lane. You just kind of bike on the road in my experience. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Kara. So better wayfinding and more robust, perhaps, elements in that section of the big jump would be helpful. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay. And if possible, if you could possibly, I dropped my email in the chat. If you could possibly also just follow up and shoot me a quick comment. Even if you could also copy and paste a pin on from maps and include it in that email, that would be super helpful as well.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you. I see we have a question from Jed.
Yeah, Brendan, thank you and welcome. Just to be clear, this question is not a reflection on anything you're doing as a brand new person at the agency. So the medium term here just has me a little bit concerned, this feasibility study. So capital funds were programmed back in 2022 to purchase the concrete barriers for immediate installation upon completion of the pavement marking at the end of the DPW project. And it was a commitment from the Scott administration that as soon as that pavement marking and resurfacing was completed, that concrete barriers would be installed. And that, so I don't know, this feels like walking back from that to me, especially because we already have paid for an evaluation report of the big jump that made that recommendation. And we also have the WSP report and the public outreach that went into that showed, over 80% support for like a 1-lane option in each direction. And so something like a side path seems like a much longer medium-term project and a much more expensive one. And also one that might not hit that goal of reduced crossing distances of Druid Park Lake Drive. And so I just want to be cognizant of the fact that, as advocates, this is a very concerning sort of medium-term language being used here, and not sort of reflected what the mayor's office has promised people.
Well, Jed, thank you for those comments, and hearing from you and people like you certainly goes a long way towards moving the project in the direction that it will eventually go. I think we're going to do this feasibility study, and those benefits and drawbacks will be noted. And so I think the best I could say right now is that we'll keep you and everyone on this call in close loop throughout the process. But thank you. That's a point well taken.
All right. We also have a question from Dan.
I already asked it.
All right. And I see we have a comment from Amar.
Yes. So another question / concern in the short term. Brandon, this might have occurred before you joined, but a couple months ago, I was in the big jump and had an instance where a car entered the big jump as I was biking through it. I had raised this to Councilman Torrance at the time, and I think he forwarded to BC DOT folks, but the thread kind of fell off. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that cars do enter. Sometimes driving through, I know during AFRAM, there were cars that were parking within the big jump, within the barriers. So as you're looking at adding brakes for emergency vehicles and such, it's just something I want to keep in mind because especially like the instance where I experienced it, the driver came into the big jump pretty quickly, and had I not been aware, I don't think I'd be speaking on this call today. So just something that I want you guys to be aware of.
Thanks, Omar. And were you were CC'd on the email thread or no?
Because I had emailed the councilman about it. I'll have to go back and look for it, because this was a few months ago, and while we were still waiting to hear about, I think we were still waiting to hear about the grant that you guys just won for the redesign. But obviously, this is something that would have to be addressed in the short term.
Great. And Kara just said she has the same concern. Okay, so I just made a note so that we will make sure to follow up with Councilman Torrance at some point. This is why we have this call to field these concerns and to learn what's going on the ground. So it sounds like it. We need to take a look at that. So thank you very much.
I had just a quick question on that, follow-up question, just to confirm, these vehicles are coming eastbound on the big jump, or are they coming westbound?
Eastbound. So in that particular instance, they entered by Madison
On the park
Avenue,
Okay.
heading eastbound. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further questions, we can hop over to our next topic. And this is going to be Greenway Trails updates.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the project manager for the Boston Street Connector. I can give a quick little update on that for right now. So we have weekly progress meetings with our consultant, Kittleson. We have recently met with the MTA Red Line team and MDOT to discuss alignment and collaboration going forward. And as we all know, we're still waiting on the red line alignment, which will directly impact this project if it is chosen on this street here. So that's our update for right now.
All right. Okay, seeing no questions for this, we can move over to our other updates.
Yeah, so if someone from the GTN team want to talk on this slide here.
Yeah, so my name is Nick Shupin. I'm with the Department of Planning, Greenway Trails Planner. I had a previous slide, I think it got jumped over. If you want to go back to the eastern segments, we are still working towards acquisition of the Norfolk Southern Corridor between O'Donnell Street and Federal Street, just east of Haven. It's a long process. We have some funding in place, and we are seeking additional funding through a couple of grant opportunities from the state and the federal government. We have ordered some appraisals and are working with real estate now to consider next steps for negotiating acquisition price for those segments. Other than that, this slide I think was actually from the previous MBAC, but just for those who may have missed that call, we earlier this year we created a funding strategy for the overall Greenway Trail network for this year to sort of align different grant opportunities with different segments. So we did a couple of these CFF carbon focused funding grant applications and TAP for the Druid Hill Park to Lake Montebello segments. The middle branch, there's a whole package of grants, bikeways, which will provide some match for this HIP grant that just was submitted last week. Shout out to Shayna for doing a lot of legwork on putting that together along with South Baltimore Gateway Partnership. That's a pretty substantial federal grant in a new program that's for alternative transportation infrastructure. And I think it's a very competitive application, so we're hopeful that we'll get that one for Middle Branch. And then additional grant opportunities that we're working on. I think that's about it for Greenway Trail updates.
Thank you, Nick. We can go to the next slide.
All right.
I believe we have Ethan on this call, possibly to talk about Warner Street.
I'm not sure Ethan's here.
Okay.
I don't have any specific updates from the previous time around, other than we're anticipating construction to start on Warner and Stockholm, and then beyond that, we're looking at scoping out design work for the rest of this Inner Harbor to Middle Branch connection, which is sort of winds through a few different streets in this area, Sharp Street and a few others. So.
Next slide, Luciano. Oh, we have a question as well.
Yeah, Dan, you can go ahead.
Darn it, I'm muted again. Sorry.
All good.
Okay.
We can hear you.
The question is Alluvion Street in connection with you're talking about Warner and Stockholm Streets. There was a discussion this morning on one of the groups about that is technically part of the Gwynns Falls Trail. It's not in great shape. And I just wanted to know if there was any, I mean, obviously it's not mentioned here, but it is adjacent to it. So do you have any information about that?
Alluvion Street. I'm not sure.
It runs from Warner, makes a U-turn, goes under Russell Street, and then comes out on Ridgely. It's a kind of a secret passageway.
Oh yeah, I know where that's at. So yeah, no, I don't know anything about the condition there. I think ultimately Warner Street will connect to the path that goes behind the casino, rather than being on that street.
Right. Okay.
All right. Seeing no other questions from the public and no comments, we can move over to our next topic. And I'm sorry, this is just showing a diagram of the previous topic.
Sorry, I think Ethan put these together, but I don't know what he's planning to say here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, construction projects, Solar Gibbs Park. Plans include improved Gwynns Falls Trail, the Sharp Street Promenade along the western edge of the park. And the project is fully funded for bidding and construction, starting FY25. And it's led by BCRP.
All right, thank you. Seeing no questions.
Okay, so we have the MLK side path update with Brendan.
Yes, thanks, John. So MLK side path goes from Franklin and MLK to all the way south to Russell and MLK. And you can see here on the right, there are the existing conditions of the side path. This is, I believe, near Washington and MLK. You can see it's a little bit overgrown. It's a little bit uneven. We are planning to repave this and to make some intersection enhancements as well along this corridor. We have the pre-authorization approved to bring on a consultant. We have a scoping meeting with the consultant scheduled for next month. And as you can see, our timeline to get 60% design submittal is tentatively scheduled for the fall of this year. Yeah.
All right. I see we have a question from Greg.
Hi, what is the northern extent of this project again?
The northern extent is Franklin at MLK.
It doesn't go all the way up to meet the Mount Royal side path?
Maybe you know what? It may actually go up to Howard. Let
I
me.
believe the original scope is to go up to Howard Street, but
Okay.
the tie
Thanks.
in to
Thank
Mount
you.
Royal and Maryland Avenue is yet to be determined. I think we have to rescope that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Greg, the Reed Street bike lane was included to make that connection to the side path, which was, already supposed to be there.
Thank you.
All right. We have a concern that the intersection there is not great. So we'll certainly make note of that. And Dan, you can go ahead.
So since we're raising questions like that, is this impacting the slip turn from Martin Luther King into Pratt Street, which I use all the time and is quite dangerous?
Yes, I actually live. I live in Barry Circle, so that is exactly. We use the same. We use that same area. And yes, to answer your question, we are looking at that in the scoping. We're taking a look at intersection treatments, including slip lanes. So thanks for that question.
All right. Seeing no other comments or questions, we can move on to our next topic. And I'm sorry, Omar, did you have a? Okay.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to add quickly just on that point. I did put it in the chat, but when you guys are looking at intersection improvements, that where the bike lane terminates right now at Reed Street and MLK is a very challenging intersection to cross. So it's just something to put on your radar, especially because I think the eastbound side of MLK has a light there, but I don't believe there is a light or anything to stop vehicles going westbound on MLK past State Center. And the median area is a bit too narrow to have a bike there to wait. So
All right. Thank you. All right, and Brandon, we also have a comment in the chat.
Yes, the answer is yes. Thanks, Melanie.
All right. Seeing no other questions, we can move on to our next item. And that is the Streets of Baltimore Bike Counter Program.
All right, so I just dropped in the chat. We are now live with the Streets of Baltimore Account Program website, which is on the DOT website. Kind of gives an overview of the project, a timeline, those sorts of things. So check it out. And then, as you guys know, as I said last time, we also went live with a public interface for Baltimore City to view our 14 bike counters in the city. Recently, for my updates on this project, every 2 years we have to change the batteries for every single counter in the city. So we've been out in the field with a contractor and myself, changing the batteries. So it's been kind of getting them refreshed for the next 2 year span. Also, we are having our data cleaned every 3 months. So we're going to be able to have very correct info on this counter program if it's not correct already. The first week of August, first 2 weeks of August, we're getting it clean. So expect to see very accurate info on this website going forward, and we should be able to continue to track our ridership in the city. So it's very exciting. And we can go to our next slide if no questions.
Yeah, seeing no hands up. So we'll move on to our next topic, and that is the Utah Place update.
Yeah, very short Utah Place update, but an update for Utah Place. We are aiming for a fall restart on the project. Officially, it's happening. We are working with Kittleson Consulting on that, so we have a lot more info on that to come here very shortly. So. Question from Omar.
Yeah, if I can just ask, where are we restarting from when it comes to Utah? Are we restarting from community engagement, or are we restarting from whatever plan we had previously and hopefully implementing that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a mix of both of them. It'll be community engagement led by Kittleson and DOT, as well as the plan itself. So the entire project will be on a full start here in the fall. So.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to take too far of a step back here because we have done. I know there's been plenty of community engagement done in the past 2 to 3 years. So I know obviously we'll have to make folks aware of what's coming, and if there's any like final pieces that need community engagement, that's great. But I don't want to. So I'm president of the Madison Park Improvement Association, right on Utah Place. So I don't want to get bogged down in the community engagement and redo a lot of the work that was already done previously.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair statement, and I think the focus is to kind of advance the project forward. So.
Okay, yeah, then looking forward to hearing some more from you guys there.
Cool.
Thanks, John.
All right. Seeing no other questions, that brings us to the end of our meeting, and unless anyone.
Yeah, so we'll take a bunch of questions now from whoever has questions in the crowd. We can just have an open discussion about them. So, first question would be Jed.
Thanks, John, and thank you all for a good presentation as always. I really want to sort of focus these comments, Alan, on the mayor's office, not the staff, DOT, who I think are doing incredible work with the resources they've been given, but they're not being given enough resources. The mayor committed to restarting installation of the separated lane network plan in his first term, and every single project on this presentation are projects that were supposed to be fully completed and installed by 2019. That's 5 years ago. And we're talking about getting these projects just into design now. And that's completely on the mayor's office. That's completely on the mayor and the director of transportation, not making these things a priority, not giving the staff the resources they need to get these things done. And the inevitable results of those things are injuries and deaths. Bank Street was a facility that was supposed to be installed in 2019. That would have included a safe crossing at Bank and Caroline where someone just died. There's no excuse at all that facility is not installed. It's a supporting facility. It's literally speed humps, four-way stops, sharrows on the ground. There's absolutely no reason that facility couldn't have been installed in the past 4 years. And frankly, there's no reason it shouldn't have been, announced today as a rapid enhancement in response to someone's death. And yet there's just absolutely no acknowledgement of that. Both of the other fatalities that we've had, recently are on the high injury network. And Pratt Street was supposed to have a separated facility by 2019. While we weren't supposed to have one on Pulaski, there are no parallel facilities, and Pulaski's on the high injury network. So it's something we know is a problem, and yet it hasn't been fixed. And so I don't know what to do here as advocates. We have a mayor that says he's committed to these things. He said that in writing. He said that in forums. He says that, he sends people to say that in these meetings. but this infrastructure is not getting built and people are getting injured and killed. And I don't know what else to say. You know, we're having a conversation right now about building infrastructure while Maryland Avenue, our premier cycling facility in the city, is illegally closed by DPW work. It's not BGE, it's not some outside agency. It is our Department of Public Works that has illegally closed a bike lane and not provided the required all ages detour. And that's a law that's been in place for 3 years. It's a manual that the mayor signed himself into action. And so it's completely inexcusable at this point that these things are happening. And it's a complete failure of leadership. And, you know, I'm just grateful that the staff, the incredibly talented staff at DOT, is hanging in there. But you're going to continue to lose talented staff if they're not empowered to do the right thing. And I just leave it at that. But like, there's some culpability here in the mayor's office and with DOT leadership for these injuries and deaths and this lack of action. And it absolutely needs to change.
So what I will say to that, Jen, thank you for your viewpoint. I definitely appreciate it. We will definitely be in further conversation around some of the projects that you mentioned to talk a little bit more in detail about that. But thank you, duly noted.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I mean, you know, we initially were told years ago that we needed a complete streets ordinance because that would help with the political will. So we helped the city pass it. We were told that the city didn't have enough money to do these things. And so we worked with our state delegation to bring the largest influx in capital dollars DOT has seen since 2009. Every other state DOT or like county DOT, every other jurisdiction in the state is facing cuts. Baltimore is getting more money. And we brought that to the table, and it needs to be spent where it's going to be taken away by those jurisdictions that are actually building things. We are letting our state delegation down. We are letting our citizens down. It's a complete failure.
Appreciate your viewpoint. Thank you.
We have
All
another
right.
comment from Greg.
Well, that's a hard comment to follow, but I've got to say I agree with it 100%. We come to these meetings time and time and time again, and nothing ever ends up actually on the pavement. My question is about the Bush Street project. It was not mentioned in the list. It seems to have stalled and died. What is the status of Bush Street separated bike facility?
We don't have a status to share at this moment. I will reach out to my supervisor when I'm as soon as I'm able to, and I'll be able to actually email you personally a update on that if that's all right.
Yes, it should probably be shared with the commission as well.
Okay, cool.
We have a question from Ellen as well.
Yeah. First of all, I want to agree 100% with what Jed just said. We've got to do better. We need more infrastructure. Now, speaking about infrastructure, let's talk about the voucher program. I was on Twitter and I was watching the poor people of Minnesota when they had a voucher program, lottery type thing that happened early in the month. And the entire website went down and it was a mess. And they ended up on the front page of CNN and MSNBC. I'd really like that not to happen here. So if we're going to go through some type of lottery, something or other on how to choose the winners of the vouchers, we need to get our technology infrastructure game up to par that's going to be able to handle the influx of applicants on this. So please, 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 consult the tech team to make sure you have the pipe big enough and the site ready to handle the onslaught.
All right, thank you. We also have a comment from Brittany.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Yeah, so I just wanted to echo Jed, some of the things that Jed said, specifically the closure of the Maryland Avenue bike lane. So I live on Maryland Avenue, and people are using the bike lane anyway, weaving in and out of traffic, including me, because the idea that we should just go over to Howard Street, where cars are driving 40 miles an hour, everybody's on their phone. Like, I've lived in Baltimore for 12 years. I know what Howard Street's like. I am also disabled. I have an invisible disability. This year I got an e-bike, which was great. At the moment it's out of service, which means that I ride very, very slow. And like, my question is this for, I think Jed already said who's responsible for dealing with this, if it's the, but for the person who, you know, has the power to change this project, where again, cyclists are weaving in and out of Maryland Avenue, going northbound, because that is safer than riding on Howard Avenue. So my question is this: if you had a disabled person in your family who rides very slowly, would you seriously tell them to ride on Howard Street? And secondly, what are you going to do when somebody dies and this city becomes a laughing stock? Because again and again, it's the bike community and advocates who have to pick up the pieces. And it's really hard work. And yeah, it would just be nice to like be able to ride my bike normally. And the other thing about this project is I don't even see, most of the time the works aren't being done. It's just closed for no reason. So again, where are disabled people supposed to ride when you're telling them to ride on Howard Street? And again, this is about more than just talking to Jed about it privately, because like, this is people's lives.
No, understood. Thank you for that. So to the point about the Maryland Avenue, that is an unfortunate lack of communication between two agencies. However, the director of both DOT as well as the deputy director of DPW are meeting on site today to assess the situation so that we can quickly address that. So we do apologize for that inconvenience that did occur there, but the leadership is involved and are working to resolve that as soon as possible. All right.
All right. Thank you. We also have a question from Dan.
So I wanted to ask about Washington Boulevard between the Gwynns Falls, the I-95 and City Line. And is there any sort of plan afoot to do anything along that corridor that's especially west from Morrill Park west down to Patapsco Avenue is just very, very difficult biking, and the more I go along there, the more and more people I'm seeing. So it's getting a lot of traffic, foot traffic, mobility traffic, bicycle traffic, and people in wheelchairs. So what is there any plan along that corridor at this point?
All right, so I want to thank you for that response as well. It doesn't appear that we have an update on that, but we are taking notes on this so that we are better prepared to provide responses to some of these major locations that are being presented today.
Thanks.
That question will be captured in our minutes. Thank you. We have a follow-up comment from Jed.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious. I appreciate that, the director is going to be in the field trying to resolve this, but I don't understand why work isn't stopped right now and why those barriers aren't moved. I flagged the difficulty with the maintenance of traffic on this facility on March 26th, on April 16th, on May 29th, on June 4th, on June 7th, on June 12th, on July 2nd, and on July 12th. And then I further followed up on July 23rd. And it has been illegal work being done by city agencies with illegal closures that entire time. We have a traffic division that reviews maintenance of traffic plans and ostensibly either approves them or does not. And I don't understand how a plan like this could be approved when we have had a law for 3 years saying it can't be approved. And I think that the commission at least deserves a really clear answer on how that happened and how that will never happen again.
Copy. Thank you.
Like, to be clear, this is the largest and longest closure of a separated bike lane since one has been installed in the city. It is a tremendous embarrassment.
Duly noted. Thank you.
We have another question from Suzanne.
Yes, hi, thank you. I just wanted to comment on what Brittany was saying and her struggles, which a lot of people have also biking in the city. That Mr. Robinson, I think you used the word inconvenience. That is an inconvenience, but I want the city officials to think about safety. So bikers, it's not just an inconvenience to Brittany and others to go from Maryland Avenue to Howard Street. It's endangering bikers. I know personally 2 bikers that have been seriously injured recently, and one up in our area that was killed last week. So when Brittany was describing the bike lane being closed, it's not just a matter of her having to go over. People bike in the city. It's different than being in a vehicle where they can go over a street. We are constantly in danger, and having these bike lanes that we depend on closed increases that danger. So it just caught my attention when you use the word inconvenience. So I hope that the city thinks about these matters in more than we're just being inconvenienced. It's a matter of safety and equity.
So, Suzanne, I do apologize if that word came across incorrectly. We do recognize it as being a safety and a very hazardous situation. So as I stated, the director is there visibly looking at the situation and working to address it personally. So I do apologize if my choice of word was not appropriate at that time. That was not the intent of how it was used, but I do note your concern with it. So thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the group? I see Suzanne still has her hand up. Do you have? Okay. All right, we'll take a question from Omar.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. I guess, Alan, in light of all the comments we've been hearing today, what should we expect? Should we expect to hear anything from the mayor's office with respect to upcoming projects or any commitments, or even just acknowledgement of the current conditions in the city as it relates to folks on bicycles? Or even scooters, micromobility scooters, anyone that would potentially use a bike lane. Is there anything we can reasonably hope to hear from the mayor's office on some kind of commitment?
Yes, sir. So short answer is that yes, you will be getting an update on all of these questions as we go through the transcript. We are going to do our best to provide a response to each one of these inquiries. And for those that we are unable to give answers shortly, we will make sure that we are prepared at the next meeting to go more into detail around some of the concerns that have been presented.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I know there's certainly a lot of projects here and a lot of things that folks are more than happy to try to get moving as soon as possible. So showing that we have support from the mayor and his promises would go a long way to at least personally putting me at ease that these projects are happening and aren't in a standstill or being worked on in a vacuum.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
All right. All right. So with that, I do appreciate all of the comments. We are definitely going to comb through the transcript. We've taken notes based upon a lot of the projects that were brought up, and we will do our best to provide a written response to the group regarding things that we definitely have responses to, and those that require a little bit deeper dive. We'll make sure that we do that in time for our next meeting, which will be in this fall. Now, there were some questions prior to, and at this point, we're going to close it out after this. The reason we're moving to a quarterly cadence is so that we have opportunity to do deeper dives into some of these outstanding projects so that we can provide more substantive responses as well as provide great content during these discussions. That does not preclude us from being able to have project meetings in between the larger group meeting, whereas we are going to, be sharing some of the upcoming projects or some of the concepts that, need some feedback, similar to what we did recently with the e-bike voucher, where we had a quick meeting with the minds to get some good feedback to help us as we are developing that pilot plan. But with that, I want you to understand that we do take this multimodal approach very seriously. And I do recognize that there have been instances of miscommunication or lack of communication between agencies, vendors, contractors, and not everyone has been adhering to the policies that have been put forth. However, with us now ramping up our DOT staff, our traffic planning staff, our bike planning staff, with us stabilizing the personnel at DOT, as well as us being able to focus financially on some of these projects, we aim to do better. I will make sure that we are communicating it better. And hopefully next meeting, we will have a lot of positive things that we can share with the group. So with that, I wish everyone a great rest of your evening, an awesome rest of your August, quite a few great events that will be taking place. Hopefully you get to see each one of you out. I'll be probably the tallest guy that you see outside, so please walk up and say hi. We're more than happy to meet you personally and to engage in conversation. So with that, everyone have an awesome evening. Definitely will see you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.